Good afternoon, my name is Matt Rohrbach. I'm in company B3. This past fall, I studied abroad in China.
I spent the semester abroad in Amman, Jordan.
This past summer, I was in Monrovia, Liberia.
My placement was as a kindergarten teacher in a newly opened kindergarten school.
I knew some of the language, and so I actually got to speak with the members of the Jordanian army.
Here are these women who, they have nothing. They have no education. They have no way to get an education. They have no way to get out the streets.
And that really helped me understand how China is, it's a country that's really struggling with a lot of internal issues and how it finds its identity.
I always wondered what it was going to be like on a deployment where I'm in an environment and a culture completely different than what I'm used to, and how am I going to be able to do my job?
We see it in a large scale, country versus country. I got to see it, how it affects one person.
People who have different beliefs than I do and different beliefs than our culture has in the U.S. And it gave me a better idea of the experiences and hardships that people go through that we will never have to.
What I think we see from the cadets is that they have a small picture of how this is going to change their career. I have maybe a slightly bigger picture of how it has changed my career and will going forward. When I was a cadet in Uganda, we were there to build a school. With this local NGO, it's already started. You have 8 weeks. The very first day, we meet with the village elders, we have dinner, we spend the day together, never pick up a tool. The next day, we go and the children have prepared a program for us, and we go and see some of the village sites and these type of things. Eventually, we start to do some work, heavily interspersed with cultural activities and these type of things. And by week 6 or 7, it's apparent we're not going to finish this school, and my frustration is building and building and building. And finally, at the closing ceremony, school unfinished, we're about to leave, the local director of the NGO and the village elders stand up and talk from their hearts completely sincerely about what a success this has been and how great it is that we have this new understanding of each other and these relationships that we've built. And the school will be finished shortly. We're not, this is not the primary thing. And I struggled with that. I struggled with that for a while. But if we fast forward to 2007, I'm a detachment commander in Basra. Basra's been overrun by Jaish al-Mahdi, and there's nothing the British forces that control the battle space or anybody else there can do about it. One of the approaches that we took was to bring tribal elders outside of the city to meet with us, with the State Department, with some of the military there, build these relationships with the hopes that we could find a way to root jam out. Eventually, this leads to the proper relationships, but the first meeting, I remember leaving that meeting thinking, we just talked and we didn't talk a thing about operations. In the next meeting, we didn't really get into operations, but eventually we got to the point where we built that relationship and built this infrastructure that we needed so that when Operation Charge of the Nights happened in the spring of 2008, the Iraqi forces liberated Basra from Jaish al-Mahdi control, partly due to some of these tribal networks that we had established down there at the time. None of those would have happened if we had sort of rushed into this process of trying to do work instead of building relationships. But the bottom line is these experiences rapidly speed up the maturation process of our young cadets and lieutenants, and that process leads to better leaders, leads to a better accomplishment of achieving our nation's goals.
As a comparative politics and Chinese major, I bring a new sense of depth into the learning that we have in class, and being able to pay that back to my peers and then to my professor is something I really look forward to.
I can look beyond what the headlines say. I can now think, all right, well, how does this affect the lowest levels? And that's something that I think that I will have to do as a platoon leader or as a company commander or even higher if I choose to go there.
Speaking to these women that were so disadvantaged and had no hope for the future was extremely difficult, and it definitely put me in a place that I had never been before.
I'll be able to adapt to whatever type of environment or culture I'm in, because I'll be able to do the same things, just interact with the locals and learn a little bit of the language and pick up the customs and traditions. That will let me take care of my soldiers better, it'll let me accomplish my job more effectively, and I can really focus on more important aspects of the deployment.
It made me more committed not only to the reason why I joined the Army and why I'm at West Point, but to being an American in general.